and I myself would prefer to be an agnostic in principle. But I recognize that in simply answering your question, I'll be taking what is almost a theological point of view, and let me explain that. And I'll do so by referring to the work of Benny Shannon, who has studied the ayahuasca experience in hundreds of different people. His book is called The Antipodes of the Mind, Charting the Phenomenology of the Ayahuasca Experience. This is Oxford University Press, 2002. And by looking at many different people taking ayahuasca in many different contexts, and then looking at the coherence of what they report about their visions, and Shannon also, by being attentive to his own visions, changed his point of view from being an atheist materialist to being a Platonist. In other words, as Plato said, there seems to be a world of pure ideas. And the more experience one has with the realm of ayahuasca, the more one has the impression that the realm of visions seems to be an independent place that one plugs into, rather than something that one is carrying around inside one to start with. It's as if there were a whole level of television broadcasts that are there, that exist outside our minds, and that when we tune our minds by using these substances, it's like we're turning the channel, and we pick up these channels that are filled with information and ideas and visions. According to Shannon, there is no limit to the kinds of things that one can learn in these states of consciousness. Once again, it's not easy to bring back information. I mean, not everybody hallucinates easily, but finally there are quite a few people who do. But once you get there and you have the privilege of seeing visions and getting all these things, the hard part is bringing it back, making sense of it, and downloading it into the reality that we live in here. Nevertheless, your question, where does it come from? Well, now, I'm willing to answer your question, and I'm willing to share my notes with you. For the moment, I agree with Benny Shannon, and it's true that my experience of the realm of visions is one that seems to me to be independent of myself, and that seems to be fairly biospheric. In other words, it pertains first and foremost to the biosphere. So I've referred to this as something like a biospheric television that one tunes into. But, this is clearly speculation. There's no scientific proof that the biosphere is emitting electromagnetic waves that one picks up in modified states of consciousness. But that is the explanation that, for me, for the moment, best coincides with the data of the experience. Does that begin to answer your question?
Absolutely.
And you see, by saying that is where I stand for the moment, I realize that I'm embracing a Platonic, standpoint, which is a philosophical standpoint, and it is not neutral, and it is not agnostic.
Absolutely, and that's fine. That's whatever it takes in order to try to describe the mystery of life and again the origins of knowledge. And one thing that I'm puzzled with and really blown away with is the basic idea that is also discussed in your book in terms of DNA and obviously the symbolism of the serpent overall. That these things are such throughout human history in mythology and scripture that is such a consistent message, so to speak, of these things, that it's almost like it has to be something to it, if I put it that way, because otherwise humanity wouldn't constantly turn towards these things all the time. Right, Jeremy?
Exactly right. And actually, if one insisted on just explaining it all away in terms of coincidence, I think that would be pretty religious too.
That's right.
People who really want to believe that there can be nothing beyond molecules. They can hold that position if they want, but it too is a belief system.
It is, but even in terms of molecules, there seems to be a an intelligence there, or what you even, I guess, speculated, but that might be the root of it. I mean, you have a passage in terms of what you envision that shamans actually are doing, and that has to do with a kind of an awareness or a consciousness that is being drawn down to the molecular level. So if we actually move deeper into the reality of our physical plane in one sense, and in that there is even levels of information and knowledge and things to be taught. Can you talk a little bit about that, the molecular molecular level, and the fact that shamans seems to take their consciousness down to that?
Yeah, well, clearly we're getting into outlandish and complicated territory here, but I'm willing to give it a shot. What I discuss in my book is that at the heart of many shamanic visions around the world is a form that historians of religion have called the axis mundi, or axis of the world, and it's shaped like a twisted ladder or two entwined vines, or in fact a double helix. Well, that is precisely the shape and structure of the DNA molecule, and this was discovered in 1953, whereas the shamans have placed this shape at the center of their knowledge, and it's the main symbol of life and healing for shamans on 5 continents, and has been for thousands of years. Well, this structure or shape was discovered to be, well, the key to life in 1953 by Crick and Watson, because this is a shape that allows the DNA molecule to serve as an information storage and duplication device. It's because it's two complementary strands wrapped around each other that they can be unwound and have exact copies of themselves made. So this shape really is the mechanism that life has found to duplicate information and duplicate itself. Well, when one comes at the DNA molecule from a shamanic angle, and one reconsiders it, what one knows about it, well, hold on, we're talking about a chemical text. So just what does this mean? I mean, is text a metaphor, or no, it turns out there actually is a coding system, which is the genetic code, and that is entirely analogous to the codes that humans used. In fact, until the discovery of the genetic code in the 1960s, it was considered that only humans used such codes, and that they were the proof of intelligence. So it turns out that every cell in the world uses the genetic code, and DNA is a chemical language made of 4 letters. And it really is a code, and this is not a metaphor, and it really is a text, a chemical text, and it's not a metaphor. So there's clearly a troubling question right there, which is that, I mean, who's ever seen a text and a coding system emerge out of nothing for no reason? You know?
Yeah.
So meanwhile, what we're talking about is our own biology. It's not just the amoebas and the blades of grass and the tomatoes that are out there containing DNA and so on. It's also us sitting here right now, and right not only in the middle of each one of our cells, but in the middle of each one of our neurons. There is a very long ribbon of DNA information. And you know, if you take one of our neurons inside the nucleus, which is something like a 200 millionth of a pinhead, there is a strand that's 2 meters long and 10 atoms wide of DNA text containing more than 3 billion DNA letters. This is like equivalent to 1,500 encyclopedia volumes of information. You know, it's vertiginous just trying to think about it.
Yeah.
Well, this is living language substance that enables our neurons to do what they do and for us to have our intelligence. You know, how could there be no intelligence involved given that our own intelligence springs out of this stuff? I see no reason. Up until recently, the materialist science that put its finger on DNA supposed that, well, a molecule is a molecule, and everybody knows that molecules are it's just stuff. You know, it's carbon or hydrogen. It's not It's not intelligent. Hydrogen doesn't give interviews. But, so they treated it